Hello there. Hi, this is Marion Peppelmeyer with the Igniting Soul Columbus chapter in Columbus, Ohio. And our guest for today is Kathy Benner. And say hello, Kathy.
Hi.
Hi. We are delighted to be here today. Kathy, I've gotten to know her through the Igniting Soul Tribe, through Author Academy Elite, and actually Business Academy Elite. She has a remarkable story and encouragement for everyone out there who's been an entrepreneur, been a business owner, still is a business owner. And all of us are really caught in a trap of, perhaps not trap, but in a new place of reinventing ourselves, transitioning because of this coronavirus. Quarantine that's going on is causing all of us to rethink. And she has a lot to offer because she's done this a lot over her life, and it's quite well and successfully, I might say so. Kathy's story, as I introduce her, I love this story. At age 6, her father was frantic. She couldn't be found in the house. He frantically looked for her all over the house, perhaps the garage, perhaps the shed, perhaps their backyard, and couldn't find her. When he finally found her, she was in one of these large ditch cul-de-sac, whatever they're called.
Culvert.
Culvert, yes. And found her with bricks that she had carried down from their yard, and she made the bricks into like a desk or an office, and there she was playing office. And at that point, she said that was the day or time she decided she wanted to be a business owner and grow up to be a business owner. And she set her sights on that. But she has quite an interesting story how all of that happened and when and so forth. So Kathy has combined all of her collective efforts, through all her years of experience. And she is launching her Kathy Benner International Academy, which will incorporate everything that she's learned to date and that she feels called to share with others to help them along the journey to their own passive income, being financially independent or well off, or just having more than enough to provide for their families. So Kathy, I'm going to pass it on to you, and why don't you give us a little bit of your background?
Okay. Thank you,
And I haven't
Marion.
shared already.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me today. I just want to share a little bit about my background. Starting out, I did not go to college right out of high school. And so I just started working, as many of us do out of high school, that first job we all remember so well. But over the years, early in my career of working, I ended up being a single mom, working a job just a little over minimum wage, and really struggled financially. And so the answer to my dilemma was to take a second job. And so, of course, any folks that are working two jobs, you understand how time consuming that can be and very difficult. And finally, my mother sat me down and said, you better make some changes. She says, you're not going to have any income for your retirement, because of course those minimum wage jobs didn't come with any kind of a retirement plan. And so I didn't know what to do. At the time, I was working in hotel management, and I was on a salary, and I was over minimum wage, but not a lot. And so at the time, I was getting my nails done. As many gals that might be listening today understand the whole acrylic nail phase that everyone went through. I think now gel nails are more popular, but back in the day, acrylics were all the rave. So I had my acrylic nails done, and my nail gal decided to retire. Well, I kind of panicked. So I went on the search for another nail tech and found a gal, 19 years old, right out of high school. She had just gone through maybe, I don't know, a 9-week program at a local cosmetology program to get her license to be a nail tech. So I don't know what made me ask her, but while I was getting my nails done, I've never done this before, ask anybody this kind of a question, but out of the clear blue, I don't even know why, but I blurted out to her, well, how much can you make doing nails anyway? Because I'm thinking maybe this could be a part-time gig and satisfy my mom, who was after me to put back some money for retirement. And this little 19-year-old said, well, I'm having a really bad week. And so I'm thinking, oh, poor little thing. She's sitting out here eating bonbons, you know, waiting for her next manicure to come in. And she said, yeah, she said, this week, she said, I normally make about $1,200 a week, but this week I only made about $700. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, really? Say what?
I wasn't even making 700 and let alone the 1,200. And so I'm thinking, maybe this is something I need to just check out. Now, I had no idea what that meant at the time, but fast forward, I ended up researching it. I went to cosmetology school just for the nail program, just like she did. It was the fast track. I did mine part-time in the evenings. I decided to go to school Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday morning. And my mom took care of my daughter. I was a single mom at the time. And when I got out of school, I thought, well, now I'm just going to take a part-time job. And since I already had that schedule in place, I thought I'll just have my mom watch my daughter and I'll just do nails Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday morning. I realized within about 6 weeks that I was making more money doing nails part-time than what I was on my full-time corporate job. So I knew I had to rethink what I was doing. So I, like Carrie teaches, to, do, kind of a part-time side hustle or whatever. I just did it part-time on the side and took about 24 months to make the transition. So I just gradually backed off on my daytime corporate hours and gradually added in my nail salon hours to where after about 2 years, I was full-time in the salon industry. And I realized rather quickly, in Ohio, we have what's called booth renters or independent contractors where we're self-employed. And so I just rented my table, my station, if you will. And I soon realized that everyone in that salon was renting their table or their station, or if they were a hairstylist, their chair. And it occurred to me that I really need to rethink this and maybe buy some real estate, because I knew with real estate, it builds equity. If you buy it at the right price, sometimes you have some built-in equity as soon as you buy it, but over time you definitely have equity. And I thought, I need to look at this. And so I immediately went to work on buying my first building, hired my own staff that was paying me booth rent as independent contractors. And then over the next 20 years, they would buy me a piece of real estate. So it worked so well that I decided after a year or two in to take a look at my equity. And I had already built some equity. So I borrowed that equity out of that first building and bought a second building. And then a couple of years later, I borrowed that equity out and bought a third, and then again, a fourth and a fifth. So finally, at the end of 20 years, I had 5 commercial buildings. And that's how I did it.
That's amazing, because you had vision at such a young age.
Well, I wasn't all that young, Marion. I was 40 before I ever went to cosmetology school.
Wow.
Yeah, I had been in the workforce for 20 years, working minimum wage, 2 jobs, trying to make ends meet. And it wasn't until I was 40 that I even went to cosmetology school.
Wow. And that you could see the long haul. And that you...
Well, I was afraid I was never going to retire, and I actually ended up retiring early. I thought, I'm going to work till I'm 90, and I ended up retiring at age 60 because of the real estate.
Wow. And since then, you've done quite a bit, but I want to kind of go back in history somewhat, because for our audience and listeners, a lot of us assume that someone who's been successful in business was just born that way, just stumbled into it or whatever. But here you were raising a daughter. You're a single mom, And this is when you launched in a hole and transitioned yourself.
Mhm.
And even since the hair salon, so you did it all while homeschooling your daughter. For those
Yes.
who right now during the coronavirus, your whole lives have been turned upside down. You may be a CEO of a company now working from home, and you've got kids at home. You may be a single mom out there within the tribe, and you may be going, oh my goodness, how can I do this? So why don't you share, how did you do this in raising your daughter and building a business?
Well, first of all, I was lucky in the fact that she was already a freshman in high school. So it's not like I had a second grader that
Okay.
needed more hands-on. I had a ninth grader that I could put at the next nail table at the nail salon, and she could work on her assignments while I was working with clients. And so that worked rather well for me. And I was just lucky in that sense that she was older. I get that some of the moms today, those elementary children or moms that are at home with children that maybe are even younger than that aren't even in school yet, that's going to be an issue of them trying to work and watch kids at the same time. Again, I was lucky at the time that I had my mom.
Mhm.
So if I did have anything that I had to do that I wanted Jennifer to maybe be with my mom, that was okay as well. So I did have my mom as a backup.
Okay, great. And in some of our pre-discussions, so forth, I was intrigued that you actually took your daughter to the salon.
Mhm, mhm.
So how did that work? You were working and she was
I
homeschooling.
actually I actually put her to work. So once, because again, she was in ninth grade, so she was wanting to have some spending money.
Mhm.
And so she would work the front of the salon. She would greet customers and she would take care of the cash register. And then we added tanning. Just, I had some space inside these buildings that, some like one was a converted house. You know, when you go to these towns, some of these little towns, they take that heart of the town, that old part of a little village, and
Mhm.
they turn some of those houses into businesses. So you
Mhm.
see beauty salons or bookstores or coffee shops or whatever. Well, I had purchased, in my 5 buildings were all in little towns like that. I had one in German Village, I had one in Canal Winchester, I had one in Groveport, I had one in Pickerington, and one in Lancaster.
Mm.
Those are all central Ohio for those of you that aren't from this area. And they were all converted houses. And so what worked for me was I had the upstairs at some of these buildings that I really didn't use for stylist or nail techs because clients would have to go up and down the stairs. But I turned the upstairs into tanning, and which was very popular. And so,
Mhm.
so then I could have my 14-year-old run the tanning. I could get approved to be a tanning operator, and
Mhm.
she could run the tanning in the salon. And so it gave her some spending money. It kept her busy. It also we would turn it into a lesson on how to do the math, how to
Mhm.
calculate to pay the bills, how to order product. So she was an integral part in right on the ground level of me running the salon. So by the time she was 18, she could run the entire salon, except for doing the nails. She could run the whole business end of the salon as
That's
far as.
amazing. That's an incredible story. Incredible story of of the American spirit, American ingenuity, and
Now, since then, she's become fully licensed cosmetologist. So she is
Mhm.
fully licensed, and she also is the admin to my companies.
So excellent, excellent. But you just didn't stop there with salons. You went on and as it well, I alluded to, many of us are in transition. We're trying to figure things out on our next steps, either in our author business or in another business. And we came in through Carrie's programs, Uniting Souls, through the Business Academy Elite, which Kathy has done. And so for some of us, it's a transitioning maybe for the first time, looking
Mm-hmm.
at the tools that we have in front of us and how can we keep afloat? How can we produce retirement? and keep going. But you have actually transitioned multiple times. And I would say relatively, may not have been all smooth all the way, but relatively easily and successfully. So you, going back to the Kathy Binner International Academy, you have taken your different transitions and brought them into courses to help other people in some of them are specific niches, others aren't, to actually be successful and build passive income for themselves, so that should another situation like this ever happen, they wouldn't need to really worry. And one of them is you segued into the Caraway B&B. You have your name of your place is the Caraway
Guest House.
Guest House. I keep wanting to call it the Caraway Place. Caraway Guest House in Canal Winchester. And I know if people have been here on conventions, Uniting Soul Conference, they all love staying at your place.
Yep, I always offer my rooms for the authors.
So that's wonderful. So keep that in mind, folks that are out there watching and listening. But you went from the salon, owning 5 salon buildings, then you went into residential.
I did. After once I started working in the salons and was making some pretty decent income finally, and the girls now, all my stylists and nail techs were buying me real estate, for lack of a better way to say it. I started investing in some residential properties as well. So I now have some residential houses and a couple of duplexes and a fourplex. And so now I have income from the residentials as well. But during that time, once I was ready to retire, well, actually, I struggled with retiring because I loved everything about the salon business. I loved the busyness. I loved the clients. I loved the staff. I just loved everything about it. It was just crazy busy. The tanning folks coming and going, and all the teenagers at prom time, and all the wedding parties. It's just an exciting place to be, and we were crazy busy. And so it did my heart good when I sat there and I would look back through the building that I actually worked in, which was my first building. And I would look back through the building, and every stylist and every nail tech would have clients in their chair and clients waiting. And it just did my heart good to know that because of me, all these families had a great income and they were all making something of themselves. And I loved that. I loved everything about it. But on the other hand, I kind of created another monster in the fact that I was working 12-hour days, 6-7 days a week, and my health was starting to suffer. And I finally reached a point where I knew I had to do something different. And so I left the salon industry kicking and screaming. I did not want to leave it. But my back was hurting, my arm, my shoulder. I was breathing acrylic dust and acetone every day, and hair dye fumes, and just constant work. I'd have a client every hour from 9 in the morning until 9 at night. And finally, I just knew it was time. After 20 years, I knew it was time to retire. So I answered an ad on Facebook. I saw this ad that said how to turn likes into clients or something like that. Carrie could tell you better. It was one of Carrie's ads. I'm sure David wrote it and posted it on Facebook. And I ended up at a fellowship. And that's when Carrie was doing his fellowships on Friday mornings. And I ended up at a Friday morning fellowship. And I'll tell you this story. It's a cute little story. I told Carrie a couple of years after meeting him. He didn't know this story originally, but I walked into the room and they said, "This is the Igniting Souls Fellowship." And I thought, that's a strange name for a business meeting. And Carrie walked in and he said, I'm Carrie Oberbrunner. And he said, I'm going to, he did the traditional, I'm the bald guy with the girl's name. And he said, but I'm going to start with prayer. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong room. I thought, this has to be some sort of a church group or something.
Mhm,
He's
mhm.
going to pray. Now, not that that offended me at all. I was very active in my church and that was fine, but I just thought I was in the wrong room, that this was maybe some sort of a board meeting of a church group or fellowship. And right about the time that thought went through my mind, the girl in front of me turned around. She put her hand on mine and she said, "You're not in the wrong room." Well, I hadn't said that out loud. I'd only thought that. And
Uh-huh.
so I stayed, and everything Carrie said that day resonated with me. And the rest, as they say, is history. I started attending the fellowships. I went to a couple of his conferences, and then the first programs that I bought from Carrie was Your Secret Name, Deeper Path, and Day Job to Dream Job. And I'm now one of his master coaches on those free programs. And at the time, my secret name turned out to be teacher, and my opus, and for those of you in the tribe, you know what I'm talking about if you've gone through those programs, my opus was to try to help an earlier version of me, that single mom that was struggling,
Mm.
working two jobs, not enough income to really get by, but no time to go to college, no money to go to college to get the degree. And so you just felt stuck, like you just were not going to be able to move the needle ahead. And I always had a car that didn't run, and I was always racing up and down the highway to punch the time clock. And so I wanted to create some courses on how to have passive income that didn't break the bank. I didn't, some of these courses, are thousands of dollars, and some are worth thousands of dollars. But I knew that the gals that I wanted to help couldn't afford those kinds of courses. They didn't have the time to go to college or the money to go to college. So I wanted to create some sort of an academy that they could work from home. They didn't have to add childcare. They didn't have to drive anywhere. They didn't have to have, a fancy suit to show up to another job. And it's something that they could do from home. They could learn from home, and then they could do it from home. So that was my opus on what I wanted to create. So from there, I just got involved in the BAE so that I could put together that program. So that's what you see today is the program that I've been working on through BAE.
Amazing, amazing. And there are 4 tracks to it. If we could maybe cover some of them or all of them quickly. You have track 1, fit as a fiddle. Track 2 is the ins and outs of B&B. And the 6 F's, I love this one. Track number 3 is the 6 F's in real estate investing. And when I first saw it, I thought, wow, it's not the 6 A's in real estate investment. So anyway, my mind went to, is she telling you what not to do so you don't fail? But no, that's not what the course is about. It actually is about how to succeed. How to do it. And then track 4 is writing on the go.
Mm-hmm.
But you've done something unique, which I think will benefit a lot of us out there. We're all now resorting to all different high tech that's available to us. And one of them is the international program out there called Meetup groups.
Yes.
I've created them in the past for myself. I've been in them in the past. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how you're using it to build a base for your courses in your academy?
Okay. Well, first of all, going through BAE, which is the Business Academy Elite, we learn how to create our offer and then how to create our funnel and go through to finally making money in whatever our program is. So with mine, I started with the meetup groups to try to emulate what Carrie's doing with his fellowship. So once somebody comes to the meetup group, they get to know me, they get to know a little bit about what I do and how I do it. And then if just like me, once I attended Carrie's fellowships for a month or 2 or 3, I purchased the actual conference. And then from there, I purchased his programs, the coaching set of Secret Name, Deeper Path, and Day Job to Dream Job, and then eventually became a master coach in those programs. So with that said, I decided to just kind of duplicate what he does. And so my meetups are like his fellowship, and
Mhm.
they're free to anybody that wants to come. And I have a meetup for each course because they're similar but yet different, especially the one about getting healthy. Because I realized once I did retire from the salon business that the first thing I needed to do was to get my health back. After 20 years of leaning over a nail table,
Mhm.
hour after hour and breathing all of that acrylic dust, I knew I needed to get my health back. So that was one that was very important to me. So I started the meetup with that one first. And then from there, they can take the course,
Mhm.
which again, for those that are on the BAE program, there are several platforms that you can create a course, and I simply created my course. And so after that, they can then join a mastermind if they want to get one-on-one, uh, I'll call it coaching, but mentorship with others that are in the group. And then ultimately they can coach with me individually. So that was the first one, the fit is the fiddle. And from there, I had folks that needed some income rather quickly, some extra income.
Mhm.
Um, they didn't know where to turn. And so one of the fastest ways to make income immediately is to put your extra bedroom on Airbnb. So the first thing I did is I listed one of my rooms. I told Mark, I said, every property has to generate income. It has to pay its own way. And so in the house that we live in, we had an extra room. So I put it on Airbnb just to see if I would like having someone in my house. That's a little different if you're not used to that. And after we had a guest or two, I decided that, okay, this is okay. So at that point, I went through our village or our little city where we live, and I actually got totally approved to be a licensed bed and breakfast. I didn't want to be under the radar like a lot of the Airbnbs are. And so I actually got approved with inspections, fire marshal, the whole 9 yards. And so we are a licensed bed and breakfast in our city. And from there, I added a second and then a third room. Now, what folks don't realize is that not during the coronavirus, of course, but in normal times, one can generate about $500 a month per room. So one room brings you an extra $500 a month. Well, that's a new car for a lot of folks.
Mhm.
Two rooms will generate about 1,000, and three rooms will generate about 1,500 a month income. Well, for some folks, that's more than what they're making on their jobs, depending
Right.
on where they're working. So, and for folks that are retired, again, if you're on Social Security, there's a lot more factors you got to make sure,
Mhm.
on how much you're earning and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the long and the short of it is it's a fast, quick way to generate some extra money into the house if you're okay with strangers coming and going in your house. We've
Mhm.
had folks from around the world. We've had folks from China. We've had folks from Germany. We've had folks from Russia. We've had folks from almost every state in the United States. This is our fourth year running a bed and breakfast in our home. We love it. We love everything about it. We've never had any bad experience at all. So that's the fast track if you need to have
Mhm.
some cash right away, because it really doesn't take a lot of effort. It takes a little extra laundry soap because you gotta do all those bed linens.
Right. But in the course, anyone out there interested or contemplating using their house and renting it out as an Airbnb or B&B, this course really will help them maneuver through all the red tape, all the steps. They won't be reinventing the wheel, fumbling out there. You've got it all in the one course, and
Yes,
that's what amazing tool. What
yes.
amazing tool. And
The
one,
city was Well, the city was so impressed with my course that they actually gave me a grant to write that course. So I actually got paid to write that one through our city because
wow,
we were the first bed and breakfast inside our little city. So they gave me a grant to write that course.
really? After
Yes.
all these years, because I know your little city, you're the
Hmm.
first one.
We
That's
were the first one in
amazing.
Yes, inside the city limits. We were the first one, and so they said that they really had not approved anyone before inside the city limits, and so it was a learning curve for them as well as us, because we had to go to the state to find out how to do it. But all of that is in my course, and the city gave me a grant to write that.
Wow. So you technically, to borrow a term, you borrowed a platform,
Yes,
sort of.
absolutely, absolutely.
I should say God opened the doors. The doors were wide open. And
Yes,
favor was
yes,
just granted as the local people saw what you were wanting to do to bring in business into their town, because if people are in your bed and breakfast, they may go to the shops and the stores.
absolutely.
So it ends up being a plus for both, a win-win. And then you have the 6 F's in real estate investing, and that's a whole course in itself. How
It
to do what
is.
you've done, and right.
That one, that one again, I go back to Kerry. He always teaches to enter the conversation in your client's head, not to make them enter the conversation in yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, when I first started, what questions did I have? What didn't I know that I know now? And I didn't know how to find the real estate. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to fund it.
Mm.
I didn't know how to flip it. I didn't know how to fill it. And I didn't know what my freedom number was. And those are the 6 F's of real estate. So it's finding it, funding it, fixing it, flipping it, filling it, and finally, what is your freedom number? And so that course is a step-by-step defining what each one of those categories are, and some overview on how to do each and every one of those steps. And then finally, what is your freedom number? Meaning, how many units do you have to replace your actual income on your regular job? So a lot of folks in the real estate investing will actually leave their job and just do the real estate, which is what I did. I actually left my salon job, retired from that, and just did the real estate once I found my freedom number.
Right. Yeah. And you can say yes or no to this question, but because of the coronavirus and you are a landlord, I personally think that major networks ought to pick up on what you've done for your tenants, what you're able to do. Are you willing to share that? You're not puffing yourself up. I'm the one doing it. She's very humble about it. We were just chatting about it. And here is one local business owner who is able now then to help others through this time. And as a landlord, how are you doing that?
Well, if you remember in my story where I finally had built up some equity in my first salon building to where I could borrow that equity to buy my second building and then do it again for my third, fourth, and fifth, I've realized now with all of my residential rentals that I now have acquired some equity in some of those buildings and some of those houses and the commercial buildings. And so what I've done, when I realized that a lot of my tenants were going to be laid off because of where they work, a lot of them are either restaurant workers or for whatever reason, they're totally laid off where they have no income. They're having to wait for unemployment. We all know how many weeks that might take for all of that to kind of get caught up in the paperwork. And I knew that they needed some help immediately. So when this first hit, I immediately went to my lender and I took out what was called a HELOC, which is a line of equity. It's a line of credit on my equity so that I had the income to run on, so that I could continue to pay mortgages and taxes and insurance and utility bills and that sort of thing. Because all the bed and breakfast guests, of course, have come to a halt because all of their events have canceled. So they're no longer needing to stay. So that income has stopped for me. And a lot of my rental income has stopped for me because those renters, of course, are laid off. So now I'm running on my line of equity, my line of credit out of borrowed against my equity, which I'm blessed to have to be able to do that. And so I, in turn, sent out a letter to all of my tenants, giving them 4 different payment options where they could defer their rent for when they got back to work.
Hmm.
and then they can choose which option works best for them. And I'm doing it a month at a time. So I've done it for the month of April, and I'm just kind of deferring those rents until later. And then I'm going to also turn around and do it again for the month of May, and I'll continue to do it each month until everyone gets back to work.
Wow. That's amazing. That's being a true patriot, true American, and what a wonderful witness. All of us can do something in our own spheres of influence, what we've been given in life, to be able to help others. And you really have stepped up to the bat for your tenants. That's amazing. Amazing story. So, your track 4 is about writing, how to start writing, and people interested out there that want to know more, they can check out kathybinner.com. She has a wonderful website, and it's well developed, well thought out, and you will see the meetup groups listed for you to join any if you're local here in Ohio. And now you're probably doing them by Zoom, correct?
I am.
So,
And I do want to mention something about the writing course. Once I got involved with Carrie, and over a period of time, of course, his biggest blaze is his Author Academy Elite, which I have not subscribed to, by the way. But when he came out with Ghostwriter Academy, I remember crying when that came out. That was right up my alley, was the Ghostwriter Academy. And so I started doing some ghostwriting on my own. Once I went through that program and got certified in that program through Carrie. That was another one of the programs I purchased from Carrie. And that's my third line of income, of passive income, is that I can do write, and I can do that from anywhere in the world. It's just worked out beautifully for me. I also can do blog posts. I can have affiliate links and blog posts, which generates income. I teach at some author groups and author clubs locally around Columbus, Ohio, and I do that on a monthly basis, and I get paid to do that. So all of that is all working together. So my number one line of income is, of course, my rentals. My number two line of income is the bed and breakfast, and my number three line of income is my writing. And so with the three together, that's what equals 100% of my income.
wow. That's so encouraging that all of us can step in. There's opportunity everywhere. We just have to figure out our own niche, right?
Exactly.
And then really learn what to do, how tap into. I'm calling you an expert like Kathy, and B&B, Airbnb, real estate investment. Maybe you want to be a landlord for the first time. She's the one, the go-to person to go to about this. And now how to turn your writing and your heart for writing into actually a career and an additional income stream of income source.
And I just have to give a plug for the Ghostwriter Academy. I like to say that it's a total business in a box.
Amazing. I think I'm going to have to look into that. So for all of us writers out there. So Kathy, this has been delightful. Do you have any other tips for anyone out there? Any special bit of wisdom you want to impart?
Actually, I do. I look in the mirror every day and I tell myself I am smart enough to figure it out. And every one of us, we are smart enough to figure it out. You just have to know that about yourself.
Wow, that is good. That is good. So we don't have to fumble and go, I can't do this, I don't have that, poor is me. You look yourself and go, I can figure it out for myself.
Yes, I am smart enough to figure it out.
Smart enough. Wow.
And Carrie's tribe comes with so much help. I mean, you've got all of the groups. You've got, the BAE, the AAE. Everybody in the tribe is willing to help. if you have any questions and you
Mhm.
toss them out there, tons of people will come to your rescue. So don't be afraid to ask any questions, because that's part of the figuring it out, is having folks around you that have those answers. And so go ask.
Wow, great advice. Great advice. Kathy, I want to thank you so much for this interview. We had some technical difficulties in the past and even today, and she is a trooper. And they weren't all on my end. They weren't.
Well, thank you so much
But
for having me today.
oh my goodness, it's a pleasure, Kathy. I'm so happy when I made the decision to write my book and to jump in at Author Academy Elite. People will hear this multiple times over from me. I thought it was just me paying for the coaching and for all the information on how to produce a book, from A to Z. I didn't realize that Carrie Oberunner and David had built a whole tribe. I didn't even like the term tribe, to be honest. And now I do, because now I get it. I understand it. Kathy is so right. What I discovered is that no author should write alone, and no business entrepreneur should be doing it alone. So within the Author Academy Elite, there's Author Academy Elite and the Business Academy Elite programs to help anyone wherever they're at. But you're not alone. She's right. There's this community. And I never would have met Kathy if we didn't have this built-in community where we are encouraged to help one another, where we're encouraged to pull, pull others along. I know in the beginning, I was very intimidated going to that fellowship meeting. I felt like, even though I came from the corporate world, had a lot of skills, done a lot of my life, I felt so intimidated. I looked at everyone else going, oh my, they've already published the book. Oh my, look at this. They sound so good, so put together. And it was only through that fellowship, the face-to-face that we're able to have, and going out to lunch afterwards here in the Columbus area, that I learned differently. And I have a whole family. I've been thrust out in the marketplace, and I'm loving every minute, because I never would have met you, Kathy.
Well, just like me, you were in the right room.
Yes. You got it. You got it, Kathy. So everyone, remember Caraway Guest House.
I sometimes will host an author to come if they need to get away from their house because of the kids and the husband and the TV and the dog barking, and they want some quiet time to write. I do occasionally will do a writer's weekend where they can come and have their own quiet room. We've got Wi-Fi throughout the house, and they can write.
Ah, wow. I'm there. I just live. I don't live too far from you, but I am right there. So thank you, Kathy. And I know everyone has gotten something that they can leave and take with them. I just know it. And I just want to say thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your blessed day whenever you see this. And we'll talk to you soon, Kathy.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.